Hey family, welcome to Black Screens and Streams, where Afrocentric movies and shows are reviewed for you. I am your host, Carissa, and today we're looking at Family Matters on its 30th anniversary to see how it holds up in 2019. Family Matters premiered on ABC September 22nd, 1989 as a spinoff of Perfect Strangers. The show follows the crossover character Harriet Winslow and her family living in Chicago, Illinois. The rest of the main characters included her husband Carl, their children Eddie, Laura, and Judy, her mother-in-law Estelle, and her sister Rachel and Rachel's son Richie. The show ran for 9 seasons, so in the interest of time, we'll only focus on season 1 for now. In this review, I want to discuss the positive, the negative, and the relevant. Let's start with the positive. The show presented strong family values by not only having a nuclear family with 2 parents and their children, but by having an extended family with the Aunt Rachel and grandmother Estelle. Though the pilot showed Carl's hesitance and pessimism regarding the consequences of having his mother live with them, the issue is essentially resolved by the end of the episode. By having an extended family, each member had someone they could turn to for advice or comfort. While these moments could be a little corny, they were still enduring and contributed to the charm of the show. One of my favorite examples from season 1 is between Carl and Harriet. Without any dialogue, they were able to convey Carl's disappointment from an earlier situation with Eddie and Harriet's empathy and support of her husband.
I would play you a little one-on-one, except kicking your butt would only add to your misery.
Throughout the season, the spouses support each other and their children, the children support each other, and the extended family members do the same. This is a sitcom, so there has to be conflict throughout the season, but overall, the members of the family can rely on one another in their time of need. Now that we've looked at the positive, I want to discuss 2 issues that I think are still relevant today. One of the relevant topics overlaps with what I consider to be a negative aspect of the show, so we'll come back to that in a minute. The first relevant topic comes from episode 10, False Arrest, where Carl ends up arresting one of the family's favorite celebrities. The episode starts with the Winslows rushing to watch the Buddy Goodrich show, depicting a seemingly perfect black father raising 2 adopted white sons. Little side note, while watching this episode, I got the impression that it was meant to be very tongue-in-cheek, and I thought that the writers were in a way making fun of the family sitcom formula. Also, I don't know for sure, but I feel like this was either meant to be a nod or a jab at different strokes, but that's neither here nor there. The setup is that the Winslows love Buddy, and they talk about how he's the perfect father as if Carl isn't standing right there, possibly being affected by their words.
He's not real!
The conflict happens when Carl is on duty near the lot where the Buddy Goodrich show is being recorded, and he asks several crew members to move a car illegally parked in a handicapped spot. He eventually comes face to face with Buddy, and since no cameras are on him, Buddy reveals himself to be the complete opposite of the character he portrays. He was rude, arrogant, and not only does he insult Carl, but physically assaults him, leading to his arrest. Later, when the cameras are rolling, Buddy plays the victim and pretends not to understand why he was arrested. Back at home, the majority of the Winslow family continue to idolize him at the expense of supporting Carl and his side of what happened. Later, Buddy confronts Carl and tests his integrity, but Carl refuses to compromise his values. By the end of the episode, the family learns of Buddy's true nature and apologizes to Carl for doubting his experience of disrespect and mistreatment. In 2019, where the opportunities to rise to stardom are more easily accessible and the celebrities themselves are more easily accessible, the False Arrest episode still reflects the mentality of superfans. People idolize celebrities and seem to forget that we see what they want us to see. Whether it's through social media or traditional media, people tend to show the highlights of their lives and show themselves at their best. We can get caught up in the glamorization and lose sight of the fact that they are still humans with flaws. People elevate celebrities to the level of blind support and will disregard and dismiss reports of misconduct, as we see in this episode. People stan for celebrities. I had to look that up to find out that it's a portmanteau of stalker and fan. People throw the term around as a joke, but some people truly embody this and feel that their favorite celebrity can do no wrong. Speaking of idolizing another person, we now come to the other relevant topic that I feel is also negative. Steve's obsession with Laura is disturbing. Although it was intended to be funny, I didn't find it comical and I felt uneasy watching him lust for her. I had to ask myself if I was overanalyzing the situation because they are just children, but that made it even worse in my mind. I try to consider the zeitgeist because society changes and we are talking about a 30-year-old show. I was barely 3 when this show first aired, so I can't personally reflect on what was considered socially accepted at the time. So leave a comment below if you have some insight about dating and consent in the late 80s, early 90s. With consent and coercion being sensitive issues in 2019, I think Steve and Laura's dynamic doesn't age well. Specifically, I think episode 17, The Big Fix, will raise eyebrows today. In the episode, Eddie is failing algebra and Steve agrees to tutor him with the understanding that he will be owed a favor, and he holds Eddie's Prince concert tickets as collateral. Eddie passes his exam and Steve decides to cash in that favor in the form of a date with Laura. This is where a lot of problems start. Number 1. Laura is a person with enough autonomy to determine who she is not interested in. Her brother does not have the right or authority to barter her.
I can't go back on my word.
Well, you should have promised him something you could deliver.
Number 2. Eddie knows that Laura is not interested in Steve, so him asking her to go on a date with him wouldn't be a mutual matchmaking scenario. He would be trying to convince her to ignore the decision-making process that led her to repeatedly reject Steve. Number 3, he is placing the value of enjoying the concert over her right to decline someone's company. As the episode continues, we encounter more issues. Number 4, as her guides and guardians, her parents can veto her decisions in order to prevent her from succumbing to inappropriate situations. However, we don't see them advocate for her. Rather than protect her autonomy and tell Eddie that he has to be responsible for his own actions and forfeit his concert tickets as payment for tutoring, they tell her that it might not be that bad. I understand that the intent was for them to be encouraging to her, but I don't think that was the way to do it. Laura eventually agreed to go out with Steve, and we encounter problem 5 while they're having dinner. Steve manipulates her emotions to convince her to kiss him on the cheek, which is something she did not want to do, and he has to act photographed.
What was I thinking? Why should you lower yourself just because it would mean the world to me?
Oh,
For you, it's just an insignificant gesture. In your lifetime, you'll go out on hundreds of dates. But for me, this could be my one and only. How do you like that? I peaked at 13.
At the end of the episode, Laura laughs off the experience, Eddie promises to take her to the concert to thank her, and Harriet says that going on a pity date was a good deed. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there in awe. While the episode may be a little cringe now, I included it in the relevant category because I think there is a silver lining. The plot of this episode could foster a conversation about what is and is not acceptable with dating. The missteps that everyone took could be talking points of the do's and don'ts to help navigate young people through the dating world. All right, y'all, I think that is enough for today. Thank you so much for joining me for this review. How do you think the show holds up in 2019? Let me know in the comment section the positive, negative, and relevant themes that stood out to you from season 1. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and come back for another review. Bye, family.